the Z.
Temt-ta, Temt-ta, Temt-ta. So this is our weekly address number 17. Just for those who might be listening for the first time, and for those who may be listening for the first time when this is put up, these are question and answer sessions hosted by myself, Chief Nanya-Shaabu of the At-sik Nation of Yamasee Moors. We are a stakeholder of the United States and Canada. We are lien holders on the United States, as well as we have a lien on the Vatican, the Holy See, and an active statement of claim on Elizabeth II, whose misnomer is Queen Elizabeth II, who is a fraud queen. We are also listed on the United Nations as an indigenous peoples organization recognized by over 190 countries. In addition, we are also indigenous peoples organization, and we are also recognized as a stakeholder for the United States and Canada. So with that, we are claimed and we have our right to self-determination. We also have our right to self-government in accordance with the UN Declaration of the Rights. So with that, I give gratitude and appreciation. Now is the time to only have Temt-ta, Raahuaat, greetings and peace to you all. So before I get started for this week's address, which is what we always do, I'm doing an invocation. And this is called from the Gold Book, which is known as the Sacred Tablet of Samurai. And this is Supplication 36. This is a supplication to say every day, and it starts on page 226 for those that have it. For those that don't have it, you can give me a email address, UPO, C as in Charlie, H as in Harry, T as in Tom, H as in Harry, O-N, number 19 at gmail.com. The number I can be reached at directly is 587-712-0639, and this is worldwide. So what I'm going to start off with is the supplication to say every day. Temt-ta, ya nitiru nuk atlibu maluj fi Antuten min magib wa atisu wa nuk atlibu malujuk min wagus Shil gawut wa kasu wa nuk atlibu malujuk min ka wa mukhanu bi'isum wa padahutsin Shil ino sa ya anli wahidat ya nitiru wa nibu'uk kafuni kar dik ash kalun ganumu ya sabuni nafu min shinu kalun namnu wa kar nafu Sanudni fadun min akmus shil shinu kalun timradu bi Antuten ya nitiru wa nibu Gashu lakafuz alani ista'nawat ash tempa gawut liya zawul wa yagusni wa ajuzni istakhras wa karut rahum alani Antuten asabawuni fa ajuzni nasru waham minuzafu shinkum yabrifuwa liyakawun pahagat jihadi ayrayub ya nitiru La tagubni iza nuknasu ausanu ghalutum. Neteru I laragud alani nasuun li avun inofi khabushat liya akhus shaluchoni sanubni kasu wa mamulmul shonafun himud ila Antuten wa basut nuwabu. And the translation is this: I seek refuge in you from anxiety and grief and laziness, and I seek your refuge from being overpowered by death and the oppression of mortals. O Heavenly One, O guardians and your nibble, suffice me with that which is lawful to keep me away from what is prohibited, and with your grace make me free from want of what is not approved by you. O my guardians and nibble, please don't impose on me afflictions which I have not the strength to bear, and pardon me and grant me protection, and have mercy on me. You are my patron, so grant me victory over those who conceal what they know to be the fact beyond any doubt. O my guardians, do not punish me if I forget or make a mistake. My guardians, do not lay on me a burden for allowing my mortal instincts to take control of me, making me lazy and neglectful of giving praise to you and spreading nuwabu. Amun Re, Amun Re, Amun Re. So that's the first invocation I want to do. The next one that I want to do is, this is called the Sacred Fire. And doing this, as always, this is for Ferguson, but it's not restricted to Ferguson, which is the misnomer. It's Cahokia, which is the indigenous name. And this is for all the callers on the call, as well as for those indigenous peoples worldwide who may be listening to this, like in Australia and Papua New Guinea. So this is called the Sacred Fire, and this is an invocation of divine light. Now, in the name of the Almighty Temt-ta, Elohim, Nitiru, El Elo, I am, I call forth and command the full radiatory support of every cosmic being of light, from every plane of creation with the power and authority to release the sacred fire, to be here with me, the callers, Ferguson, Missouri, and all indigenous peoples on the planet and our group soul, right now and forevermore, as I make this divine invocation. I attune now to the consciousness of the planetary crystalline grid, to the wisdom of ascended nature, and to the I am presence of every man, woman, child upon the earth. As we merge and realize our oneness, we all affirm, I am Elohim incarnate. I invoke the light from every star, planet, celestial body, heavenly plane, and galactic core to pour with ever-increasing intensity through the Earth's crystalline grid, blessing all life with this brilliant force field of Temt-ta, Elohim Nitiru's living fire. May this infinite supply of divine light substance be efficiently grounded and assimilated to every particle of life upon the earth, raising all into the realms of heavenly consciousness. Now I command that my body, the body of all people on this call, all indigenous peoples on the planet the world over, be eternally nourished and sustained through the soul power of the light of Temt-ta, Elohim El Elo, Nitiru, which always prevails. With every breath, every thought, every word, every action, every feeling, we are receiving and transmitting this cosmic light, functioning as a perfect example of the Mashiach on earth. From the universal mind substance, I now call forth the full revelation of all mysteries here and now. I am now the knower of all things, and all things come from the light. I am the living light intelligence of the divine mind in physical form. I call forth the mightiest light quotient increase for myself, for the callers, for the people who will be listening on this conference call, for all the indigenous people on the planet, and our entire group body now. Beloved beings of the great central sun, fill us now with the supernal light of Temt-ta, Elohim, El Elo, On, Nitiru, to the maximum degree that we can all safely handle at this time. As we are baptized by this flood of sacred fire, I now stand prepared to reveal the truth of our inherent Temt-ta, Elohim, El Elo, Nitiru, On, power and perfection. Finally, I invoke the might and power of 1,000 suns to blaze through our group soul and all melaninites, Nubians, Unims, blaze, blaze, blaze this incalculable radiance to every atomic and subatomic particle of creation, now and always. May this command be eternally sustained. Through this divine radiation, all life is ascended and free. I affirm with absolute trust that our group radiance is now and forever a tremendous force field of sacred fire, consideration, fully capable of blessing, that our group radiance is now and forever a tremendous force field of sacred fire, consideration, fully capable of blessing and evolving all life on earth. I am the light of Temt-ta. We are the light of Temt-ta, Elohim, Nitiru, On, El Elo that always prevails. I am Elohim. I am Elohim. I am Elohim. Almighty I am. Almighty I am. Almighty I am. Om. 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 Okay, and with that, what I would like to do first before I start, I think I just got a text message here, so just hold on and let me see if that was the brother texting me in. He's probably ready. Let's see, who is this? Let me see who this is here. Hold on 1 second, y'all. Just downloading this picture. Because I like to do this as it happens, so this shows how much obstruction we're getting. It also shows how many people are actually paying attention and actually looking at what we're doing. And it makes it a lot easier to show that we're definitely fighting against a system that people don't want to talk about, yet they say they want remedy and recourse. Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so this brother sent his writing that he had put on the U.S. Federal Reserve note. He put it on a 20 Federal Reserve note saying, who is Chief Nanya-Shaabu? Is there a lien on the White House, etc. So he just sent that to me. So when I get that, I will upload that. So what I wanted to do is I'm going to go through time zones. So in case people have any questions, I'm going to go through the time zones. So this way, because we had a lot of callers last time, and as I was doing the invocation, we had a lot of people coming in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from west, let's see, I'm going to go from east to west. So all those in the eastern time zone, if they could please, I know it's not going to be easy, but I'd like to go for the sisters, whoever's in the eastern time zone, for you to give me your name. Hello? Hello, is anybody there?
I'm here.
Okay. Who's that, Humble?
That's me.
Okay, so Humble. Okay, is there any other sister that's in the Eastern time zone on this call right now? Okay, so I guess that's it. Any brothers in the Eastern time zone on this call right now? Any brothers in the Eastern time zone on this call right now? Okay. Central. Any sisters in the Central time zone on this call right now? Which obviously would include Ferguson.
Uraeus.
Uraeus? Okay.
Yeah.
What state are you in?
Louisiana.
Okay, the Bayou. Okay. And okay, is there any other sisters aside from Louisiana in the Central time zone on this call? Okay. Any brothers from the Central time zone on this call? Yes, Chief Bay, caller from Houston, Texas. Okay, so any other brothers from the Central time zone on this call? Okay, so now we will go to the West. Any sisters on this call from the Western time zone? Okay. Okay. Any brothers from the Western time zone?
Yes.
Yes.
Michael.
Michael?
Washington State.
Okay, Washington.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Okay, what I'll start off with is, okay, I just saw on Facebook this morning there was a leader of the KMPB Sarong in West Papua New Guinea, and his name is Martinus Yohami, and he was kidnapped. His family's mourning him because he was kidnapped and murdered by the Indonesian government. So I just want to give an acknowledgement to the Free West Papua campaign that's on Facebook, and send them an acknowledgement of, any communications, anything that they want to get out to the world, to, get in contact with me, tag me on Facebook, and we will make sure that we get it put out there. And again, chances are where the people from New Guinea are in the West Papua, they're probably sitting on some diamonds or some oil or something, which would explain why the Indonesian government is being used as mercenaries to kill them, and that's genocide. And that's the exact same thing that's happening over here in the West. And this leads into what I was talking about, or what I'm going to be talking about for the address. The first thing I want to deal with is there's a gentleman and I say that all loosely, of course, Tommy Sotomayor down in Atlanta. And he apparently has gotten into an argument with Tariq Nasheed. And basically, I really could care less about that, but I watched to see what's the back and forth about. And what was interesting was apparently Tariq Nasheed commented on Tommy Sotomayor's decreasing hairline, and instead of dealing with that and keeping that on that level, Tommy Sotomayor, he decides to put up a picture of Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, who wrote the ISIS papers, and said, well, if my hairline's receding, what about hers? So I watched his stuff, and I found his stuff was funny, Tommy Sotomayor's stuff in the beginning, and then I kept noticing he kept harping on the black women, and I was like, what are you doing that for? And why are you even expending so much energy? Do something else. But that's how he gets his money, apparently, from Rush Limbaugh. So what I found interesting was, now, why would he bring up her out of this is between him and Tariq Nasheed. However, since he brought up Dr. Cress Welsing, and I took offense to that, and I said, well, I'm going to comment on that, because now Tommy Sotomayor just opened the door up, because she talks about white supremacy. And in her book, I have a printout here, actually, of this was done in 2010, where she's a MD, a psychiatrist in Washington, D.C., and racism, and she put white supremacy in parentheses, is the local and global power system and dynamic structured and maintained by persons who classify themselves as white, whether consciously or subconsciously determined, which consists of patterns of perception, logic, symbol formation, thought, speech, action, and emotional response, as conducted simultaneously in all areas of people activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And she underlines this part here: for the ultimate purpose of white genetic survival and to prevent white genetic annihilation on planet Earth, a planet upon which the vast majority of people are classified as non-white, black, brown, red, and yellow by white-skinned people, and all of the non-white people are genetically dominant in terms of skin coloration compared to the genetic recessive white-skinned people. People who classify themselves as white, who wish to be taken seriously and who are righteous and responsible, will only talk about ending white supremacy, racism in parentheses, and replacing it with justice. For further understanding, read the Cress Theory of Color, Confrontation, and Racism, White Supremacy, 1970. Also, the ISIS Papers, The Keys to the Colors, Frances C. Welsing, Third World Press, 1990. Dr. Welsing states that for the sake of black mental health and for black intelligence, all people of color must understand the dynamics of racism/white supremacy. That is what it is and how it works, so that they have an appropriate self-respecting response to racism/white supremacy. Dr. Welsing further states that once the collective people, non-white, understand this fundamental issue, racism/white supremacy, the ultimate organizing of all the appropriate behaviors necessary to neutralize this great injustice of the white supremacy system, it will only be a matter of time. And this is from the Michigan Citizen of October 25th, 2009. So when Tommy Sotomayor picks Dr. Cress Welsing out of every person he could have thought of, he's talking about a receding hairline, he goes to Dr. Cress Welsing. So he proves, one, her theory, which is no longer a theory, it is a fact. Two, he proves that he obviously has some self-hate, because why would you go after a 69-year-old woman talking about her hairline receding when the attention was put by Tariq Nasheed toward you? And then he runs and goes to find somebody else. So it only goes to show and prove that Tommy Sotomayor is really an agent. And again, I'm going to classify that word by my definition of it is somebody who is against anything that is positive, agreeable, progressive, a person who has no intention of changing the status quo, an individual who is not about getting outside of the box and changing the present system. And then finally you get to the last definition, a government agent or a U.S. agent or a provocateur. So this way we're on the same page as to what I mean when I say that. However, other people have came out and said that, yeah, he actually works for the, that he's actually being paid by Rush Limbaugh. That's why he's getting so much play. So I just wanted to put that out there and address that, because I'm coming to not so much that Dr. Cress really needs the defense, but to hear Tommy Sotomayor say something like that about a PhD, obviously something is wrong with Mr. Mayor, and he obviously has some self-hate issues. So I just wanted that put out there. And further, when he had did a video on a brother who got arrested for standing in a parking lot drinking iced tea, and he thought that was crazy. He said, yo, you should get with those Moore brothers. He said, they know the law. He said, hey, any of you Moore brothers out there, you shout me a line, and I'll get you guys some play. So I posted the lien on the White House, the U.S. exporter to the Middle Atlantic. I posted this on Tommy Sotomayor's page. He turned around and I think he pulled down the lien on the White House. He removed that one, but he left the other two ones up. So when I saw that, I said he's a joker. He's a house Negro, straight up. So anybody can say, I said, yes, I even sent him on Twitter, and he never responded. So I said, why this guy ain't responding? He put it out there. So here I am saying, yeah, tell people, about the fact that the U.S. is a corporation. Oh, he ain't talking that. So he's a house Negro. So, best thing to do really at this point, once you out him, let him keep walking. Everybody's just going to steer clear from him. The silence will drive him crazy. What I want to bring up now on this subject is the ethnicity and race identification, which is standard form 181. Anyone can go on the internet and get it, right, and Google it and get it. Now, this is from the U.S. Office of Personnel Management, Guide to Personnel Data Standards. Now, keep in mind, the Social Security number, that number from Social Security Administration is considered, that name on there in all caps is considered an employee. For all those that didn't know that. And it also has a race classification. However, and the employee is considered a federal employee. Even if you don't work for the federal government, the Social Security number is that trust is considered federal. So now here's something interesting. They're not telling you this, but this is a form most Nubians who want to change their racial category and classification need to fill out, but they don't know about it because it's not talked about. And they'll say, well, this is only for the federal government. The Social Security number comes from the Social Security Administration, which is in Washington, D.C., and D.C. is the United States, which is 10 miles squared. So using that in the States, you are inadvertently admitting to being a federal employee and a federal citizen. By that degree, then, the states, you become foreign in that capacity, even if you work for the states or work for the federal government in another state, you're still considered a federal employee. So what happens here is they don't tell you that you all can change your classification, because then that means they have to change the books, like I said before in previous addresses. They'll have to change the books. They'll have to change the school curriculum. They will have to change they will have to change their symbols. They'll have to change their logos. They will have to change their data. Everything has to get changed. Just changing your racial classification alone can bankrupt the whole United States government. And the reason why I'm saying that is these are the racial categories, and these are the definitions of the categories as per the U.S. Office of Personnel Management Guide to Personnel Data Standards. It's known as the ethnicity and race identification. They're not telling you this, but they're asking you, how do you want us to identify you? And then it is codified into a code. And that's Standard Form 181. Now, the racial category of American Indian or Alaska Native, this is the definition. Now, this is according to the United States government, which is a corporation. A person having origins in any of the original peoples of North and South America, including Central America, and who maintains tribal affiliation or community attachment. Asian, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of the Far East, Southeast Asia, or the Indian subcontinent, including, for example, Cambodia, China, India, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, Pakistan, the Philippine Islands, Thailand, and Vietnam. Now, here is where the definition, or the racial category, for Black or African American. Definition of the category is a person having origins in any of the Black racial groups of Africa. There are no Black racial groups of Africa. You ask anybody from Africa, they come from either tribes or clans. Everybody getting that?
Yes.
Okay. So therefore, the people from Africa do not even refer to themselves as Black, because that's a color. They refer to themselves as a tribe or a clan. They're either Hausa, Igbo, Watusi. That's how they refer to themselves. So that right there is a throw-off, that Black or African American, because there are no Black racial groups of Africa. It doesn't exist. Now, the next definition is Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, which is a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Hawaii, Guam, Samoa, or other Pacific Islands. And the original peoples of Hawaii, Guam, Samoa, or other Pacific Islands are Nubian. Now, we get to the last racial category, which is white. The definition of white, according to the U.S. SF 181, published by the U.S. Corporation, this is the definition of white. A person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. Now, who are the original peoples of Europe? Can anybody answer that question? The original peoples of Europe was us. Who's the original peoples of the Middle East? Us. Who's the original peoples of North Africa? Us. So therefore, you see the difference between white, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. When they say Black or African American, a person having origins in any of the Black racial groups of Africa. Why didn't they say a person having origins in any of the original Black or the original racial groups of Africa? Is everybody catching that? When you have a new Black Party saying Black Power, I'm like, they're invoking nothing. Because they're carrying what? Social Security numbers. They're carrying driver's licenses. They're carrying corporate contracts and adhesion contracts that don't exist. So when they keep saying Black Power, what happens? Nothing. Everybody getting that?
Yes.
They're saying, how do you want us to identify you? And here's 5 categories. You pick the one And whatever you tell them, they're going to go with because they are a corporation. They can't do that. So when you check off white, and it says a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. What's in North Africa? Egypt, Somalia, Kenya. Going over then you go over to Ghana. So that whole northern, as they call it, the Horn of Africa, that whole top part there, Tunisia, all of that is where Africa. So that is your classification. So you should be calling yourself white because it's a corporation that's doing that. Does everybody follow this? It might confuse a few people, but the computation, and then anybody that's on the street, police officer, person giving you a ticket or what have you, they cannot write that you're black because this is a federal form. So for those thinking that, okay, well, you know, we got to change our status. Neuroscience Temple is talking nonsense. Utter nonsense. Because they're still doing business and they are still having intercourse, commercial intercourse with the United States, which is a federal corporation, which is an occupying force. So therefore, you have to be astute enough to say, okay, this is what you've got, this is what I'm using. So that's the first thing that I wanted to address. And I support that September 8th blackout of not buying anything. I'm totally in agreement with that because they don't really have any honor or respect when it pertains to melaninites. And the problem that we have here is not limited to here. It's all over the planet. Okay. Now, the next thing I'm going to get into is Benjamin Crump, who had spoke at the eulogy for Michael Brown there in Ferguson. And he perjured himself, essentially, by saying that Michael Brown was an American citizen. And he did tell the truth about the Dred Scott, but what he didn't tell the people in the audience was that Supreme Court decision, Scott versus Sanford of 1857, has never been overturned. So when these newbies are going out there screaming, "We got rights," the question is which rights, and it won't be underneath the Constitution because you have to be. Another aspect of it is you have to be a party to it, which you are not. And then you have some quote-unquote white people who are not even party to it either. But they're not going to tell them that because they don't want no civil war. So the next thing here is I'm going to read this article. This is regarding the police and the justices. This was back in 2005, y'all. Justices rule police do not have a constitutional duty to protect someone. This was published June 28, 2005 by Linda Greenhouse. Washington, June 27th. The Supreme Court ruled on Monday that the police did not have a constitutional duty to protect a person from harm. Even a woman who had obtained a court-issued protective order against a violent husband making an arrest mandatory for a violation. And this is Castle Rock versus Gonzalez, number 04-278. Ms. Gonzalez did not have a quote-unquote property interest in enforcing the restraining order. Justice Scalia said, adding that, quote, such a right would not, of course, resemble any traditional conception of property. So there you have it. The police do not have a constitutional duty to protect anybody. Now, this is the Supreme Court. Now, the question I would ask Mr. Crump is, why would you go in church and lie to the people and tell them that when it's published here back in 2005? This is, 9 years ago. And so all the people who are protesting, saying hands up, don't shoot, they don't have a duty to protect you guys. They don't have a constitutional duty. So therefore, when they swear oath to the Constitution, which is their second oath, they are not obligated to protect you. And then the next thing I want to bring up regarding Benjamin Crump is he's from Florida with the Trayvon Martin. My question is, does he have a bar card or was he called to the bar in Missouri? Because if he's not, then there's some more fraud going on. Is everybody hearing this? So this is the next issue. Benjamin better have a bar card early, because if he don't, the whole thing is some state will say yes to that freedom. The next thing that Trump didn't bring up is the congressional record 820. I'm reading this in part. Carl B. Drake, Washington. I appear a amendment. Congress no longer bound by a system of delegated power. Only to have any statutory power of human rights by the deal by civil, political, economic, and cultural. These are found in Article 5 and 56 of the Charter of the United Nations. They ratified the flag with the gold or yellow. No constitution, no law, and is not recognized on the earth, and is foreign to the United States of America. Military flag. Benjamin Crump is going up in a church, and he's a bar attorney, so he can't use the excuse he doesn't know, because what did they tell everybody? They say ignorance of the law is no excuse, right? So therefore, Benjamin Crump knows this, so he would fall under RICO for racketeering, because they're not going to get any type of remedy. The family might get some funds, which is great, but it doesn't solve the problem. The problem will still exist. The next thing, which proves that Benjamin Crump perjured himself, the Pope can abolish any law in the United States. And this is Elements of Ecclesiastical Law, Volume 1, 53 to 54. Or you can Google 40 Things Every American Should Know. And this is the statute defining the required enacting clause, because there has to be an enacting clause. No suit can be brought against the United States without authority of law. That statement is not only correct, it also provides another important clue. Congress has conferred legal standing on the United States, quote unquote, to sue and be sued. This is at 28 United States Code Section 1345 and 1346 respectively. That's what Crump should be doing, not doing a civil rights, because they have a right to do what? They have a right to void out the Constitution, because the Constitution has been declared void since January 18th, 2011. So civil rights claim is ignoring the fact that Congress has conferred legal standing on the United States to sue and be sued. So the family could sue the United States in regards to that, because they brought in who? The National Guard. Everybody getting this? And who do you think signed off on the order? Barack did. But that means Trump has to go against the system, which he's not going to do. Congress has not conferred comparable legal standing upon the United States of America, quote unquote, to sue or be sued as such. Now, the United States of America are a corporation endowed with the capacity to sue and be sued to convey and receive property. This is DEC 177 to 181. But it is proper to observe that no suit can be brought against the United States without authority of law. Note the plural verb are was used, providing further evidence that the United States of America are plural, as implied by the plural term states. Also, the author of that definition switched to United States in the second sentence. This only adds to the confusion, because the term United States, quote unquote, has three different legal meanings. However, the decision cited above is just a Marshall issuing dictum, and that was what DEC, pardon me, that wasn't the dictum, he was issuing dictum. And it is not an act of Congress. Here again, be wary, very wary, of course, attempting to legislate in the absence of a proper act of Congress, and see 1 U.S.C. 101 for that. So here we are. The United States, we know, is a federal corporation. No suit can be brought against the United States without authority of law, which means there has to be an enacting clause. The United States of America is a corporation endowed with the capacity to sue and be sued to convey and receive property. So when you hear people like Taj Tariq, they talk about nationalize and naturalization. He's and they have a card saying, I am a citizen of the United States of America. The United States of America is a corporation. And you can go to www.supremelaw.org/REF/DICT/BLDU, the number 1.htm #union at paragraph 5. So the Moorish Science Temple of America, Great Seal, Moorish American National Republic, and Moorish National Government, all of them guys walk around with those nationality cards. That's why they say don't flash it to the police. I said, well, then why would you give people a card that you say can't be used, and then say it's irrelevant? Like so-called Temple number 5 in Toronto, which they call Canaan land, and Canaan had the cursed seed and was the cursed seed of Ham and had leprosy. Aside from that, they're saying the card is irrelevant. So why are you issuing cards to people when we have the citation right here, and I'll read it again. The United States of America are, not is, are because it's plural, are a corporation endowed with the capacity to sue and be sued, to convey and receive property. And the United States of America is also known as Payne-Weber because Payne-Weber and Walmart are the ones who buy up all the prison bonds and the default judgments. Is everybody getting this? So the point of the matter here is the United States of America are a corporation. So all these Moors talking about you got to get nationalized and they're trying to use phonetics. Naturalization is a process of taking property and converting it over to the state. So when they have the cards that say, I am a citizen of the USA, the people who are with the Moorish Science Temple or Great Seal or any of those groups that are doing that don't even realize they're with a corporation. Therefore, they are slaves/chattel property, economic slaves of that corporation. So they haven't left slavery. So that's that. The next thing, this all is still dealing with Benjamin Crump, dealing with him making that speech at the eulogy for Michael Brown. And what's interesting is all the people that he mentioned, Maxine Waters, T.D. Jakes, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, all those people that he mentioned were people that I mentioned on the address before. So I know Benjamin Crump is listening to our weekly addresses. I know the Boule is listening to our weekly addresses because now they got to look in front of the people that they're saying they're trying to help, and then the people should be astute enough at this point to say, do you guys have a deal with Skull and Bones? Are you a member of the Boule? And as soon as they start, tying their tongue and start twisting their head, like, no, we don't want you in here then. Because that means you don't have no good intention. You're trying to keep us down. Is this for the people not only in Ferguson, but also in Oakland? Because I heard about what was going on. They found a noose at a job site in Oakland. So that's for them. That's for the Ezel issue in Los Angeles. That's for Ohio. That's for Georgia. That's for Detroit. That's for Ohio. I said Ohio, Detroit, for Michigan, for Chicago, of course, right? For Illinois, this is a big scam and a big game. They are pulling on the public, but again, I cannot get entirely upset with them. If you all listening in on this call, the people who will be listening in on this call, don't do anything and don't start calling these guys out, y'all can forget it. Then you guys have consented and given tacit consent to slavery, so you don't have a basis upon complaining anymore. You belong to them. They can do what they want to you. Now, if you say that ain't the case, then y'all better speak up and say something. So the next thing, this is still for dealing with Benjamin Crump, is a case called Regina versus Jaw, and that's http://mtrial.org/NODE/133. And this is a short video highlighting, quote-unquote, Queen Elizabeth II promising to uphold the laws of God which forbid her, Parliament, or anyone else from legislating. She has broken this binding contract, and thus the contract is voided. meaning she has no actual authority to bring victimless, legislated charges against anyone. Elizabeth Alexandra Mary Windsor Mountbatten Battenberg, whose family is German, they're not English, has been proven to be a fraud in an English court and is therefore not queen. Elizabeth Windsor cannot legislate, has no authority, and by fault, fraud, and default, neither can her heirs, assigns, agents, representatives, barristers, solicitors, and attorneys. Benjamin Crump is an attorney, and the American bar is underneath the British Accredited Registry, which operates out of the Inns of Court in London, England. Because remember, President Bill Clinton, where he's a trained lawyer, where was he trained at? Oxford. Hillary Clinton, what is she, a trained lawyer? Where is she trained at? Oxford. The defendant on trial and the judge has no authority to try him. Oh, hold on a second. Therefore, never having been lawfully crowned, she, Queen Elizabeth, has no authority to put the defendant on trial, and the judge has no authority to try him because the judge's authority comes from her. This includes United States courts, as they take their orders from her and operate under the Royal Courts of Justice in London. So, again, this is more fraud. Now, this is addressing, there's an elder that had asked a question, I think this was on the 15th of July. Well, does Benjamin know this? Well, if he didn't know, he certainly does now, and I know the people down in Ferguson that's listening to this are definitely going to be talking about this, and he's going to have a lot of explaining to do. He's going to be real uncomfortable. Now, the next thing, this is further proof that attorney Benjamin Crump lied, perjured himself in front of that whole audience at that church, because he called Michael Brown an American citizen. Now, here is the term. This is from the ForbiddenKnowledge.com. The term citizen was used in Rome to indicate the possession of private civil rights, including those accruing under the Roman family and inheritance law and the Roman contract and property law. All other subjects were peregrines. But in the beginning of the 3rd century, the distinction was abolished and all subjects were citizens. This is first SEL, Essays in Anglo-American LH 578, Bouvier's Law Dictionary, 1914. Now, when you go to peregrine, which is a noun in the etymology online, peregrine is a type of falcon, and it's from the 1550s, and it's short for peregrine falcon, late 14th century, from Old French falcon, peregrine, mid-13th century, from medieval Latin falco peregrinus, from Latin peregrinus, coming from foreign parts. See peregrination. The sense may have been a bird, quote-unquote, caught in transit, as opposed to one taken from the nest. Peregrine as an adjective in English meaning not native, foreign, is attested from the 1520s. Peregrination, noun, early 15th century, from Old French peregrination, pilgrimage, long absence. 12th century, or directly from Latin, peregrination, Nominative peregrinatio, it means a journey, a sojourn abroad. Noun of action from past participle, stem of peregrinare, to journey or travel abroad, figuratively, to roam about, wander. From peregrinus, from foreign parts, foreigner. From peregri, abroad, properly, from abroad, found outside Roman territory. From per, seen per, agri, locative of agir, which means field, territory, land, country. And the following is the definition of tribute, which is a tax, which is talked about in the first article of the Constitution for the United States of America. A contribution which is raised. This is the definition of tribute, in tax in parentheses. A contribution which is raised by a prince or sovereign from his subjects to sustain the expenses of the state. A sum of money paid by an inferior sovereign or state to a superior potentate to secure the friendship or protection of the latter. And this is from Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, page 1677. So the church that Benjamin Crump was in, T.D. Jakes has a 501c3, which is underneath the IRS, and the IRS falls up underneath the International Monetary Fund. So these guys work for, as they would say it, the devil. They have a contract with the devil. And so to call Mike Brown an American citizen, which means, of course, well, you have to pay taxes, but the IRS has already admitted in front of Congress that taxes, federal taxes, are voluntary. So that's more perjury on Benjamin Crump. Now, this is a historical notation explaining why the tax and how the tax was imposed upon the people. When Cornwallis surrendered to Washington, he surrendered the battle, not the war. Read the article of capitulation signed by Cornwallis at Yorktown. Jonathan Williams recorded in his book, it's footnote 3. Jonathan Williams recorded in his book, Legions of Satan, 1781, that Cornwallis revealed to Washington during his surrender that, quote, a holy war will now begin on America, and when it is ended, America will be supposedly the citadel of freedom, but her millions will unknowingly be loyal subjects to the crown, end quote. Quote, in less than 200 years, the whole nation will be working for divine world government. That government that they believe to be divine will be the British Empire, end quote. All the treaty that was accomplished was remove the United States as a liability and obligation of the king. He no longer had to ship material and money to support his subjects and colony. At the same time, he retained financial subjugation through debt, through debt owed after the treaty, which is still being created today. Millions of dollars a day, and his heirs and successors are still reaping the benefit of the king's original venture. If you will read the following quote from Title 26, you will see just one situation where the king is still collecting a tax from those that receive a benefit from him on property which is purchased with the money the king supplies at almost the same percentage. So this is Title 26 of the United States Code, Section 1491, which is imposition of tax. Statute. There is hereby imposed on the transfer of property by a citizen or resident of the United States, or by a domestic corporation or partnership, or by an estate or trust which is not a foreign estate or trust, to a foreign corporation as paid in surplus or as a contribution to capital, or to a foreign estate or trust, or to a foreign partnership, an excise tax of 35% of the excess of one. The fair market value of the property so transferred over to the sum of A, the adjusted basis for determining gain of such property in the hands of the transferor, plus B, the amount of the gain recognized to the transferor at the time of the transfer. So this goes to show again, when Benjamin Crump brought up calling Michael Brown an American citizen, he perjured himself. Is everybody getting this? Right in the church, in the 501c3. Is everybody getting this? So what we have here now is, how does he, and of course they will probably want to go forward, but again, the onus is on the people down in Cahokia called Ferguson to start bringing up these points, because you're in a circle if you don't bring these points up, and you're not getting out of anything. You're just going around like a rat on a wheel, in a cage. And here's another thing that the attorneys, the Bar Society, the American Bar Association, the Canadian Law Society don't want people to know. Pope Francis passed what was called a Motu Proprio on September 1st of 2013. And a Motu Proprio, what that means is by his own impulse. The Most Holy Francis issued an apostolic letter on July 11th and effective September 1st, 2013, that effectively stripped away the immunity of all judges, attorneys, government officials, and all entities established under the Roman Curia, And Roman curia is Latin for court. Hint, all corporations are established under the Roman curia because the U.S. Congress is what? Up underneath the Vatican. The Senate is underneath the Vatican. So all of those guys are committing treason. They're all committing crimes against humanity. They're all participating in racketeering, genocide, apartheid, rape, etc. All these persons, quote unquote, meaning the judges, attorneys, government officials, and all entities established under the Roman Curia, all of these persons can now be held accountable for war crimes, crimes against humanity. Hint, divine spirit is humanity. This is in brackets. For the unlawful restrictions of the liberties of the divine spirit incarnate, for failure to settle the account, which means acknowledging when a commercial discharge is done that they must discharge it in accord with Uniform Commercial Code, because that's all over the planet, and they're not settling the accounts. They're ignoring and not settling them for continued prosecution of claims already settled, etc. So that means once you do a commercial acceptance, return it, it must be discharged, and instead of discharging it, the prosecutors want to go forward, and that's a commercial procedure for those that don't know. What happened when the Motu Proprio was issued, Ben Bernanke, who used to be head of the Federal Reserve Bank, he announced his resignation effective September 1st. And one of the federal governors has resigned effective September 1st. And Janet Napolitano, who was in charge of Homeland Security, she resigned effective September 1st, 2013. So, again, Benjamin Crump should notice that now that he's committed perjury and that Motu Proprio is out, now he can be prosecuted. If people, this is why we do the weekly address for people. They want solutions. Okay, here's the solution. I've been giving them. Now, if people listening on the call, people down in Ferguson, people down in Ohio, people in Chicago, people in LA, people in Georgia, Florida, people in Michigan, if you all do not do these things and bring these up, you don't have to accept anything I'm saying. I'm reading it to you. You take it and you do the investigation and to check to make sure that what I said to you is correct. And then you go to you, if you believe it's part of the Americana and you have constitutional, and you have every obligation to go to your representative, congressional representative, state representative, senator in your state, and you ask those very same questions that I have been posing and these very same facts to them and watch them squirm. Anybody there?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we're here.
You can sure. They fast one last week and split me up the call.
Okay, wait. Mess it up again.
Right, they like doing that. Okay, so where are we here? Okay, so in essence, what I'm saying is now we need to find out for certain, does Benjamin Crump in fact have a bar card with the Missouri State Bar? And if he doesn't, then they got him. And I thought about this and I said, hold on a second, why is Crump from Florida coming all the way up to Missouri? I said he's got to be, first of all, he got to be licensed. And if he is licensed, then because I don't think he did an effective job on Trayvon Martin personally, because they fooled everybody. A jury, you're supposed to have 12 people. They only had 6. Nobody said anything. So this is more proof and evidence of that. The next thing is to solve the problem, and they're coming after the black male. Police have an oath to the police union, which is a fraternal order. That's what the oath that they take first. Then they take an oath to the Constitution. So the state trooper that they put in charge of Ferguson, they need to ask him, do you have an oath to the police union? So when you guys have these confrontations or when these issues come up, you ask them, do you have an oath to the police union or to the fraternal order of police? Do you have an oath? Now, if they don't want to answer, he said, well, then you can't continue, because then that means how can you take an oath to the police union first and then an oath to the Constitution? That's treason. Isn't it treason? So this is what has to be done. You have to bring that up. So that's the source of the problem. So when they issue quotas on the officers, and the quotas put the officers under pressure to make arrests, so who do you think they target? Poor people. And who makes up the majority of the poor? Us, the Melaninites. So therefore, this has to be brought up, that the quotas must be taken off police departments. The police unions need to stop instituting and remove quotas. By putting police under pressure, police are more prone to break the law. So then this brings up another thing. So since all the court, this means that all the court cases are fraud, because the officers have already sworn an oath to the police union first. So when they go on the stand to verify whether their report is correct and they swear oath, have they just not perjured themselves? They perjured themselves. They're committing crimes. So now when you bring this up, now all of a sudden they realize they have a problem, because they want the trust of the public. They already have an oath to the police union. They want the public to trust them, but then they are trained not to trust the public. That's fraud. So how can you trust an organization, because they don't call themselves public servants? They are called police or an organization. How do they really, in a right frame of mind, because obviously you have to be crazy to think that somebody's going to trust you, and I know you're trained not to trust me, then that means there is no trust. And then you have these house Negroes like Al Sharpton talking about, we're not going to take it anymore. Well, Al Sharpton, here's the challenge for you on MSNBC, and I know you can't say that because you will lose that show if you do. You have to start bringing up the quotas and the fact that the police have an oath to the police union first. They take that first, then they take an oath to the Constitution. So, Al Sharpton, let me see you bring that up in your MSNBC podcast. I already know the answer. You ain't going to do that because NASA won't let you. But you're going to go in church and lie, because church is a 501c3 anyway, so that's business. That ain't nothing spiritual. That's straight up 100% business. So this is the source of the problem. The police unions, people need to protest against the police unions and tell the police union, you need to take that quota off those police officers, because when they put the pressure on the officers put the pressure on the people, and they will arrest innocent people, whether they've done nothing. But of course, who are they targeting? The black man. So Eric Holder, he's full of it. He ain't going to solve nothing unless he's going to tell them, look, there shall be no quotas on none of these police departments. That is the solution to the problem. That's the source of the problem. That's how you solve it. And then they have to tell, like I was saying, if the police really want the trust of the public, they have to tell the truth of how the organization is structured, how it's founded, their policy, the oaths that the officers have to take. They got to release it all. If they ain't going to do that, the public has no reason to trust them. African Americans, quote unquote, have no reason to trust them. Melaninites have no reason to trust them. How can I trust you when you are put under pressure every day to make an arrest, and you'll arrest an innocent person if you have to? That's fraud. That's racketeering. That's treason according to their constitution. That's genocide, apartheid, rape, crimes against humanity. Keyword, genocide, because then the officers do what? They target the black male. That is genocide. Al Sharpton has not brought up genocide. He can't. Reverend Jesse Jackson will not bring up genocide. He can't. Benjamin Crump definitely ain't going to bring up genocide. He can't. He's probably they probably handpicked him to do this. But the thing is, if I find out that and I'm sure that people down there in Ferguson, y'all can go down there and you find out, does Benjamin Crump have a bar card issued from the state bar of Missouri? If he don't, this is a setup. Because he's down in Florida. And then now I have to say, does he got a state card, the bar card from Florida? Everyone's seen the connection here. So what I'm going to do here at this point is I am going to temporarily yield, and we're going to go to some questions here. I'm going to start off with Humble. You got any questions, Humble?
Yeah, I find it weird that you say that Benjamin Crump needs the birth card to deal with being a lawyer for the people in Ferguson, because I have a lawyer that's dealing with some problems that I had back in Detroit, and they're here in Florida. But they didn't tell me that they had a card to deal with, out of state. They just took my case. I'm not trying to bogart everybody. They may have questions too. But I have one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have one more thing. I want you to speak on. You told me to remind you, but I did want you to speak on the brother that did the test of 3 people on the picture. Which one was important to them? Malcolm X, the so-called white Caucasian Jesus, and Marcus Garvey. Can you speak about that?
I appreciate you reminding me. And that video I important. Most of the people, most of the smelling in the video, they recognize Jesus off the spot, the white Jesus. Malcolm X, not too much, and Marcus Garvey, for some people, was out of it. And then they had went to an elderly woman, and she reckoned she was able to name all 3 and say, what's the most important person in your life? And she pointed to the white Jesus. And he said, I just want to know why. She said, because I believe if I pray to him, he'll answer me. So that goes back to white supremacy that Dr. Creswell is talking about. He's really trying to find, right? Even though he's Indian, they will still consider him Chinese, and they will worship that. You go to India, you can see Krishna, Ganesha, you'll see Hanuman, or Vishnu, they will worship that because it looks like them. So they're not suffering the mental illness that Nubians are suffering, where you can show a picture to these children under the age of 10. Some of them were 5, and they, right off the top, boom, that's Jesus. And say, oh, that's Jesus? Yeah, okay, who's most important out of all these 3 pictures? Oh, the one in the middle. That tells you the programming of white supremacy. This is how deep and pervasive it is. This is why it's necessary. They don't do it. They didn't do it one time and leave it at that. They keep repeating it. They keep repeating it because the foundation of, if you're going to control the people, you have to continually keep repeating that program, because then their mind becomes open to suggestion. And then once you've got that ingrained in them, you continually have it flooded all over the place. So this way the programming doesn't break. Now there's always those that will break out of it, and which it is not, it won't work on. So then what happens is the opposite happens. Then if you, for example, don't agree with that picture, your blood family will look at you like you're doing something wrong. Mm-hmm. And it's like you're shaming them or shaming the family because you refuse to bow down to a white Jesus. And then you ask the obvious, okay, every race on the planet bows to something or worships something that looks like them. Why is it that Nubians, not only in Africa, but over in the West, even South America, the Caribbean, why? And then when you bring it up, they get upset. They don't want to talk about it. This is what Dr. Creswell had said. Any melanin.
Or they say Jesus don't have a color.
Well, then take down the white church. And if he didn't have a color, he was visiting. I don't know of any people who can walk around on the planet that don't have no color. I don't see any walks around on the planet that is transparent.
That's right.
See, but that tells that when they get like that, because now they have not fooled. Now, astronomer by the name of Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan said the problem with people being hoodwinked when you show them the evidence to prove that what they follow is incorrect. People have a tendency, the human psyche continues to go with it because it's too painful for them to deal with the fact of it. So this is the thing that bothers a lot of people, just to let you know, because they are putting up programming that's going on 24/7, 365. And the only way you're going to get around that is you have to do that. You have to. What's the next thing? So that is it. That is critical. Now, I also support the burning the white Jesus. Yeah, we need to burn that picture because it's ingrained in the mind. And obviously, whoever, the brother who started the challenge, he obviously must have been listening to the weekly address because I could tell he got like a southern accent. And I said, he must have been listening to the weekly address. That is what I'm talking about. Burn that image. If they want, they can replace it with a black Jesus. I don't care. But my point is, even for the people that were out there protesting, you get that picture of the Pope bowing to the black Madonna and baby Jesus, and you show that to these black Christians over here, and you say, okay, I need you all to explain something to me. You say this is Jesus, but here the Pope is bowing, and they call that the black Madonna and baby Jesus. So why is he bowing to a black one and you bowing to a white one? Because it sounds to me like he knows something, but he ain't telling you all. So that's
right.
That's what needs to be done. Does Urias have a question? From Louisiana, is she still on the line? Okay, I guess not. Okay, does
Yes,
Day?
yes, I am here. You've been breaking up, but I'm still here.
Okay, you got a question?
No, I don't. I'm still trying to put it all together in my head. I've never heard it this in depth before. You know.
And that's the reason why you won't hear it in depth like that, because when you are, I'll explain it to you at the beginning. What was the thing? The definition of white, right? And I say, and what I'm about to say is going to shock some people, but I'm going to put the definition out first, so when I say what I say, people don't have a heart attack on the call.
Okay. I'm sorry. Go, brother. I'm sorry.
The United States federal government, under the SF, which is called Standard Form 181, state, it's called the Ethnicity and Race Identification Form. You have to fax this into the Office of Management and Budget. Their definition of white is this: a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. So when you hear the KKK saying if it ain't white, it ain't right, I agree with them. If they say white power, I agree with them, because the U.S. government says a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or Africa. That's Kenya, that's Somalia, that's Ethiopia, and that's Tunisia, that's Egypt. That's all that is all Nubian. So this is a mind game, flipping it around. What's black is white, what's white is black. So when they say white power, I agree. Based on this definition, yes. When they say, I'm talking about when the KKK, because the KKK, these are guys who work in law enforcement, they work in government, they work in politics. So you think they're saying white power out of no stupidity? The order that they with them wearing the hoods, that was actually a Moorish order in Europe that they copied. So everything they're using our stuff against us to get us scared. Meanwhile, they're doing it. They're using it. So I say white power, yes, because when the Black Panthers say black power, according to the U.S. government, it says this is what a black or African American is: a person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa. There are not black racial groups in Africa. They refer to themselves as clans, or refer to themselves coming from a particular tribe. So I say white power, white power, white power, because this is what it means. North Africa, that goes back to Lucy, and what was she? Ethiopian, Australopithecus. So there you go. Kenya-Pithecus, to be precise, to be correct that. So this is what's going on. So you have to be vivid. They like vagueness. So when they first encountered us, they would call us a Moor. It didn't make a difference if you were from Mauritania, if you were from Tunisia, if you were from Ghana, Nigeria, or South Africa. This is how the English referred to every dark-skinned person from Africa. Oh, they're Moors. So Barack Obama said black has no standing in law. On the Tom Joyner Morning Show, we're still trying to get that audio.
So when he makes a confession like that, when he first got into office, all the people who voted for Barack Obama, yes, we can, which means thank you, Satan, were supposed to say, okay, what are we supposed to call ourselves? He never went forward with that because he was never asked because Tom Joyner didn't know what to say. So they have to look at us vividly. You're from Louisiana. You will know somebody from Mississippi. You can tell, oh, he from Mississippi or she from Mississippi. You can tell. We know the nuances amongst us. Oh, he from Georgia. Oh, that girl, she from Kansas. Right? We know the differences amongst ourselves. People from the islands know. The Trinidadians know. From the Jamaicans know. From the Guyanese. Everybody knows. Melaninites, we know our nuances, which make us different. The Amalekites don't, mainly because the blue eyes causes that's a deficiency. So the blue is what they cannot absorb. So they cannot see the nuances that we can see. So to them, they make it easy for themselves. Well, we're just going to call them Moor, or so you all look the same. That's how they do. So that's why you won't hear anything in depth like this, because these guys are worshiping the invisible golden goose that does not exist. They're worshiping the fiat. That's why I don't mind mentioning Benjamin Crump's name, because when he brought up Maxine Waters, I said, well, Maxine Waters is representative out of California. Why is he bringing her up, and what is she doing in Ferguson in Missouri? Why did she travel all the way to Missouri for? So that tells me they're listening to the address, because Public Enemy had their first record was It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold, or the second one was It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. I think it was their first one. And in there's the key. You have millions of agents, black people, that are working in tandem with this system, this matrix, to keep us in the position that we are in. So what has to happen? We have to call them out, because they're not going to provide any solution. It's just keep them quiet. Do not let these black people down in Ferguson. One, know they are indigenous. Two, don't let them know that they've been in slavery their whole lives. Number three, don't let them know they have no constitutional rights and no standing in law. Do not tell these people in Ferguson that, because if that happens, there's going to be an uprising. But we know now that the people in Ferguson are listening to our weekly address. So if I can say this, and I'm giving the codes and everything, why is it that Crump or any of these other black warriors, why aren't they saying anything? Because they are in on it. So this means even on one giant plantation with millions of informants out there. So when you recognize one, even if they're in your family, you out them. You have no other alternative. Anything else you wanted to say, Uriah?
You know what? You probably mentioned this, but it's not really clear in my head because this is just new knowledge to me. Okay, black doesn't exist as nothing that they recognize in law. The word black as in black people or whatever, which is what they refer to as. What should we refer to ourselves as? Should we refer to ourselves as white? I mean more, or I'm just asking.
Okay. What did your you're down in Louisiana? So what are you? Are you Washita or are you Choctaw, Cherokee? What did your grandmother or your grandfather say y'all were?
Okay, they said that I heard that it was said that we were Blackfoot and we had Seminole origins.
Okay. So that is what you claim, Blackfoot and Seminole, and you say I'm Blackfoot. You say I'm Seminole, because you can claim both of those, because how it was the tribes where the women would marry into, she would go to the other tribe.
Okay, let me let you know. I'm sorry. Let me let you know real quick. I'm not native to Louisiana. My people came from Alabama.
It doesn't. You're still on Turtle Island.
Okay.
Do you see how what they did is they took? If you've ever played the game Monopoly or Risk, right? But I use Monopoly because most people have played it. When you look at Monopoly,
All they did is they just came over on indigenous land, set up their own little system, which is based on a lie. It's created based on a lie, and it's built on fraud. Its foundation is a lie, and they built it with fraud. So the whole system is fraud. The whole system is vulnerable. So anytime you talk truth, they get upset because the potential is you have the potential for them to lose out or for them to get thrown out underneath the bus. And they don't want that happening to them because all those disagreeable entities that work together, when the time comes, they will turn on their own and throw one of theirs out and sell one of theirs out just to protect the whole. And so you have the potential by you saying that they get upset at you. So this is Turtle Island, Atlan, Mulan, Land of the Frogs, Egypt of the West. Now, when you find that out, what you have now, because that's why they don't want no one going to the Grand Canyon, because they will see that there are temples and Egyptian hieroglyphs there. So hold on a second. If you're saying that the Native Americans at Hollywood or American Indians in Hollywood put that were here first, what are pyramids doing in the Grand Canyon? What are Egyptian scripts doing in Illinois? What are Egyptian stales being found in the dirt in Ohio, Mississippi? That means that this was one landmass and we were already here. So what you should be calling yourself, and just because, well, my family's from Alabama, Ali Ba Mat, doesn't make a difference. You were on Turtle Island, Atlan, Mulan, and Mexam. The United States of America, Canada, U.S. are corporations operating without a license. Because the easiest thing to ask them is, how did you guys get the land? By genocide, apartheid, rape, threat, duress, and coercion. And so since the United States, Barack Obama and them signed off on that Hague Declaration, where it says it's against international law to take a territory of a state by force or coercion, this is how they got the land. So therefore, Canada, Germany, Italy, and the other G7 countries, they just admitted to genocide. Because that's what they did in Africa. That's how the De Beers, who are the ones who put out the diamonds, which they say are intrinsically valueless. It's not to say they're not pretty or none of that stuff, but there is a glut of diamonds, and they create the shortage. So this way they can charge exorbitant prices and control how much are released out of there. So how does somebody from the Dutch land go all the way to South Africa, get diamonds, and then want to say that they're indigenous? They stole the diamonds. So when they want to talk about blood diamonds, and they had that movie Blood Diamond, every diamond on the planet is a blood diamond. Every diamond. Because the indigenous people of South Africa don't control the mines. The Dutch do. And the Jews are in on that. So I don't want to hear none about, oh, that's a blood diamond. No, every diamond that every woman's got is a blood diamond.
Wow.
Because it doesn't go to the people who were there. The people who were on the lands were pushed off the land so they could get the diamonds. And they didn't care if they sent in mercenaries to kill the people off like they do in Papua New Guinea. So, sister, what you need to do is you go back to your heritage and you start writing out your family history. If you have your grandparents or aunts or whoever is alive and they said this is what we were, you get their name and said so-and-so on this date I spoke with them or recorded or videotaped it, and they said we were Blackfeet, we were Seminole. And they said, well, what are you, Blackfoot, Seminole? No, you're African-American. You said, no, I'm not. I am Seminole. That's what they don't want the people down in Ferguson to start chanting out their family lineage, because then that means we're indigenous. That brings it into international law. And then guess what happens? There has to be compensation and restitution, because now you can use the domestic charge under Title 18, Section 1091 for genocide. All these cop killings that have been happening since Eric Garner are not by coincidence. This is being done deliberately. This is genocide. And that is the buzzword. But you cannot claim any type of genocide calling yourself black, because as you already know, black has no standing in law. So what you do, sister, is you get that standard Form 181, you fill it out, put the slave name up in there with the Social Security number and the birth date, you fax it into the Office of Management and Budget. They will turn around and change the identification on there. You keep that with you and the copy of the fax. confirmation, and you carry that with you everywhere you go. Have a little attaché, put it in your purse. So this way, if there's any issues that come up and they want to call you black, you say no. That's when you say I'm white, because it says a person having origin. The original woman was from Africa, Lucy, which is coincidentally the name of that movie that came out. They don't have a dispute on that. So therefore, if she was indigenous in Africa and you're a descendant, wouldn't that make you indigenous, Urea?
Yes.
So, but if you don't say you're indigenous, then they're going to call you what? Black, because it's an advantage for who? For them.
Yeah. But you know what? I traced my family's lineage back on my mom's side past 250 years. We know the names of our great-great-great-grandparents, so
yes.
We studied that, but we don't know anything about this, what you're talking about here. We don't know anything about that, but we have gone pretty deep, on my mother's side. I have a question, and this is kind of off subject. What do you say to people who say we should be calling ourselves African?
Well, African comes from the Arabic word ifriqiya, which means to separate. So I don't agree to that. See, the key word, and here's when you get into anthropology, and they'll say, okay, this is the ancient Kushite kingdom, this is the ancient Assyrian Empire, this is the ancient whatever. Those are the names that you have to use. Because, again, the word African, African American, black, that is coming from somebody else's mind. So you are using their definition of describing yourself by looking through their eyes. So therefore, you don't see yourself as Seminole or Blackfeet because you didn't lead off with that. But when you told me, I said, that's what you're supposed to be calling yourself, Seminole and Blackfeet. So anytime anything comes up, well, what are you? I'm Seminole, I'm Blackfoot. And they say, well, are you part of a recognized tribe? I said, don't have to be federally recognized because the United States is a corporation. It's exported to the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. You, Bureau of Indian Affairs, all those Indians under the Bureau of Indian Affairs, they're underneath your jurisdiction. They basically should call themselves slaves.
Mm.
And then when you look at what happened in Oklahoma, I haven't heard what happened because apparently the sister appealed. Oklahoma wanted to kick out all the quote-unquote black Cherokee. I said, how the hell are you going to do that after 400 years? I said, okay, they're going to pay for that. So the U.S. government said, okay, if you kick them out, we're going to give you the $25 million that you guys get budgeted for. So then they had to back off. But they still, from what I saw, they had still did it. They voted. They kicked them out. And then a sister has appealed it. And I haven't heard anything yet as to what happened on her appeal. And the reason why the United States threatened the Cherokee because they do not want it to come out and all the money that they have been giving with the Bureau of Indian Affairs have been going to the wrong people.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say drop the word black, I said Barack gave you, he's not doing that for black people. But the thing is, he gave you guys a gem and nobody followed up on it. All these intellectuals, all these so-called black intellectuals, none of them picked up on what he said. Black has no standing in law. So if you get shot in the street and you go into court with a lawyer and the first thing they're going to have on their files, the person's black, you already lost. That's why I said when Benjamin Crump went up in the church of all places and said that, I'm surprised no lightning struck there. He was lying. He was lying big time because they do not want this because you have again Booker T. Washington. Humble had put it up on Facebook, and he said there's a group of blacks that like to complain, but they have been able to make money on that, but they're not trying to provide no solutions to change the status quo. So they will just continue to keep you on a treadmill as a hamster. So if you need any help with the race and ethnicity identification system, just email me at atoxin19@gmail, and then I'll guide you into how to fill that out, and then you can fax it in. And once you fax it in, that's it. It's already changed. So when they want to say, okay, what are you? You say, I'm white. White power.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so now I'm going to go to Keith Bay down in, if he's still on the line. You got any questions? Keith Bay in Central?
out of Texas. Is he there? Okay, I guess he isn't. Okay, so I will go to Michael in Washington, in Western. Is Michael still on the line?
Oh, yes, okay.
Okay, you got a question?
Not at the moment, I don't.
Okay. So with that, I'm just gonna end. I'm gonna continue on, but I'm just gonna reiterate. So pay very close. The words for everybody on the call, for everyone who's going to be listening. Words are the programming, and the English language has no tones. Words are the program. It is the keys upon which the activities are done based upon the words being used. So if they believe we finally got a black man in the White House, no, the first one was John Hanson. That's why Taj and the rest of them are full of it, because when Barack came in, they were supposed to communicate with him Pleasant Bay. None of them guys did. And they should have came out and said, look, Dick Gregory was the one that said the first president of the United States was John Hanson. I don't hear Taj or the rest of these guys talk about. That's how I know these guys as agents. They're working with the same system, and this is what, according to their doctrine, Prophet Noble Drelly said, beware that your brothers put you back into slavery. I just read the definition of the United States of America. So all these grand sheikhs, sheikhesses, adepts, and muftis have put their people back into slavery. End of story. Not debatable. It can be fixed, but the thing is they're going to have to admit, can they admit they were wrong? Their ego probably can't do that. So therefore they will continue going forward like Taj is doing, continuing doing his lectures. And now after the brother put out, I heard the video, the blog talk that Taj did last week, and he was asked point blank, we're not citizens of the United States of America. And then Taj says, we are. He said, okay, how are we citizens? He couldn't answer. He said, because you got to be party to the contract. If you're not a party to the contract, then you can't use it. So therefore, then where's your remedy and recourse? Taj can't answer it. The brother who's on the online jumped in. And then they're calling Taj a master teacher? Please. So, for everybody listening, stop calling yourselves black. That is, and in the West, it means evil, means swarthy, means untrustworthy. So why are you calling yourself a negative? Well, we're going to take it and change it. No, because in law, when you get up in that courtroom with them yellow fringe flags and no constitutional rights, you don't have no standing. So if you don't have standing in that vessel, you ain't going to have no standing on the street. That's why they shoot at the black male. And that's why for the black males listening on this call, for the ones that shy, that don't want to say their name, let's be for real. They haven't declared war, it's already been war. But now it's obvious that we don't kill you, we don't kill black men. So there needs to be more effort in talking about why is it only this? Because again, they will have to talk about what? White supremacy. And as Dr. Cresswell said, anybody who does not want to talk about white supremacy hates black people, even if they are white. So if you know what your family lineage is, you go around because your brain has been wired to think and to say certain words. Now you say, I'm Cherokee. So that's why they got mad at Pharrell for wearing that war bonnet, but Pharrell knows who he is. And so they were like, oh, he shouldn't wear it, and then he apologized. I said, no, I'm not apologizing. The ones who call themselves indigenous, or American, so-called American Indians, they need to apologize for carrying on this fraud. We were here first. Period. We were here first in Africa, and we were first over here. And because Dr. David Imhotep put out the book, First Americans Were African, that's it. It's end of story. This is not debatable. I just did a report, not a report, an open consultation with on the UN Working Group, and what I have read to you all, talking about the three definitions of the United States of America, all of that is in there, and I've read some of that here today. So I'm waiting for them to publish it, but if they don't publish it, then the first thing I say is white supremacy. And that's the reason why they're not publishing it. So call yourself by if you know your family lineage, start calling yourself that.
the people down in Cahokia, which is called Ferguson, which is a corporate name for Ferguson, they need to start referring to themselves by their tribal or indigenous heritage, not by black. Forget that. You don't have no standing. And Crump ain't going to accomplish. I told everybody this already. Crump ain't going to win no case. He didn't win Trayvon Martin. He ain't going to win this. This has already been set in stone. He is not going to win no case on a civil rights when the U.S. Supreme Court said that federal judges can void the Constitution in court. The case is done. He ain't going to win nothing. He might get them some money, which would be great, but outside of that, it's not going to stop. So now I'm going to continue, and this leads up into with the protesting. What we also have to do is this. We have to start calling on our ancestors, right? And this is just piggybacking off of what Reyes was talking about. And I'm saying, yeah, now you went back 250 years. Now you got to start going back, start calling on those ancestors, say their names, and watch the energy, feel the air around you when you say a great-grandmother or a great-grandfather, and you say their names and feel the air around you, feel how it starts to electrify. Because they've always been there, they're within you. You just never called on them because they got everybody looking at some white Jesus. And so now when you got these ice challenges going on, that's to freeze you because it's getting too hot. That's why I specifically did the Sacred Fire today, and I did it in English. So now those who don't have it, we have it on my Facebook page if you click on the note. And if you can't find it, again, send me an email to atoxin19@gmail.com. or send me a text message at 587-712-0639, and you can get the Sacred Fire and start saying that Sacred Fire. That's why they don't want that, because your pineal, we are mind linking, and that is dangerous to them. And this also shows that the ancestors are hearing, because Joan Rivers had made a statement about what was happening in Palestine and was like, oh, kill them all, kill all the people in Palestine. They started it, right? Acting like a little girl. Now what happened? She had to go for some throat surgery, and she went into a coma on the operating table. And I looked on the drudgereport.com this morning, and she's still in the coma. So that goes to show you the ancestors will get the job done, but we have to call on them. That's why the Pope is going to the Black Madonna and baby Jesus. Why? Because that's where he's getting his power from. Do you all see that? See, I'm going to give these knucklehead Negroes who are the gods, I'll give them that white Jesus. I'm going to keep praying to Black Madonna and baby Jesus and keep get that power. Watch when you print that picture of that Black Madonna and baby Jesus, and you carry that and get that in a small wallet size, or you carry that with you, and you watch, or put that up in your house, of course, and you watch how things start to change. Because you're coming back home internally. The journey's within. The next thing is there was a French minister who had called one of the ministers there. He called her a monkey in Italy. And what was interesting was apparently somebody back in her home country in Africa, they did a ritual on that minister. And what happened was he had to go for 2 life-saving surgeries, 2 emergency surgeries. I think he broke 6 bones. Something happened to his mother, right? So when I said on, I think it was address 16, that we need to start having drumming circles again, start drumming, calling on the ancestors, light those candles, and we got to start doing that black magic.
Yes.
About that.
Yes,
and we do that here in New Orleans at Congo Square every Sunday.
Pardon? Say that again, sister?
We do that every Sunday in New Orleans at Congo Square, Louis Armstrong Park. We drum, and we have ceremonies every now and then where we call them ancestors. We have a large ancestral tree that has been there since the time of the Hopis, that we hug and give offerings to. We do that every Sunday. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that for New Orleans. I'm asking. Could you do the next time you all have one? Could you do you have my email and you have my number. Get in contact with me, and I want to do something. I want to be able to have an offering or somebody do an offering at that tree for our nation.
Okay, let me get my I'm just
Yes, record it and please load it on Facebook as well.
Let me just verify your phone number because my ears are, 587-782-0629. Hello?
I'm here, sister. I don't know what happened.
Oh, okay.
I give gratitude and appreciation to the ancestors for you all being able to call. But we've already mind linked, and so now you have to use what you apply and what you know now. Now is the time. Now is the time. Now is the time. And with that, I want to say Hotep, Tila Antuten, and Raahuaat.
Raahuaat.
Okay.
Okay.